because you're going to get everybody's fanboy. You're going to get ours, and you're going to get theirs, and you're going to get the other guys, and you're going to get somebody that just says paper. Just go do the thing that works best for your company is the best one you're going to be at.
Detailer's Roadmap Cruise Control, where we navigate the roadways of life, business, and everything in between. Hey guys, it's Kevin Davis from the Cruise Control Podcast. Today we're here with Rod Puzey and Jody Sedrick from RoadFS, among other things. I'm sure you've seen them around. Before we get started, I want to let you know to make sure you go to detailersroadmap.com. We have so many cool things coming out right now. Our Google Accelerator, we have this instant price generator, we have the normal stuff that we do, which is kick-ass websites and SEO. So if you're interested in learning more about that, whether you're a partner or not, you can go to detailersroadmap.com, use that little book a demo button at the top, and one of our team will get in touch with you and we can walk through either your existing website or we can walk you through some of the other things that we had to offer. So, hey, on to the show. Yeah, so I'm super excited to have you guys. I'm going to read your bios, the little quick and dirty bios you gave me, and then I'll ask what I ask everybody on this show is the superhero backstory. So we'll have to do each of you on that. So, hey, Rod and Jody were the creators of the first software design for automotive detailers. They actually hit the 15th anniversary in business in September, which is amazing. They have an excellent and long-running automotive business podcast with over 475 episodes since 2019. They are passionate about the industry and always willing to step in and help. That is something I hear all the time about you guys. And what I've noticed personally, just seeing you guys, I think you've got yourself cloned anyway, because you guys are, I have 13 trips planned that I have to go on in the next 4 months. And I was thinking, well, that's not even like 2 weeks worth for these guys. So yeah. You guys are everywhere all the time and support the industry in a huge way. So thanks for coming on board. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, man. We're excited to be here. It, like you said, it has been a brutal pace the last 2 years now, and we've strategically done that, right? We're like, all right, how do we have an impact on the industry? How do we have impact on our customers and our non-customers? And, it's just been a strategic way for us to double down on our brand, on the industry. And sometimes it's a brutal pace, but it's a lot of fun. We've made some really good connections and had some great memories and opportunities.
Not bad for a bunch of old guys, right? Like the three of us.
I know.
Exactly. And I think my last 2 trips, I just wanted to just contrast the worst 2 environments in the world. So I went to Jacksonville, Florida, right after the hurricane, which was 101 degrees and 96% humidity. And then from there, I flew to Phoenix, Arizona, where it was only a mere 114 degrees and like 12% humidity. So,
yeah. Michelle did one of her builds for SEMA that she did was in Phoenix, and we were there for like 17 weeks 1 year. We would drive with oven mitts on. When she'd go down by herself and have to get a rental car, she'd have to drive with oven mitts on because there's no tent in the rental car. So yeah, either of those extremes is not great.
No, but it was great. I mean, both of them were great. I mean, the time we had in Jacksonville, Florida, we just laughed the whole time. It was just constant laughter. I mean, we'd have to stop laughing to have a podcast. I think that was one of the coolest events, just because everybody just jumped in and did what they needed to do. And that's, those are the kind of things I like, is when everybody's just like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do?
Yeah. What were you guys there for? What event?
It was actually a couple of different trainings. There was a boat training with Rashid Baker, and there was Angel Wax and Leather Repair Company and RoadFS, and it's just a big training that he had planned down there for 3 days. And then the 4th day, they took a 45-foot boat out and everybody went fishing.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Was it the boat that you coated?
Yep, it was.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's super cool. Well, hey, just a little formatting note. We may actually run this episode on both podcasts. So we may interview each other. So just so you're, so it's just basically with most of these podcasts, if you've listened along very long, it's really just me having conversations with my friends. And I'm glad you guys get to listen along. And these are the actual conversations that I typically have with my friends. We're talking about travel and business and life and marriage and all those things. So I'm excited to sit and have a conversation. Tell me, I'd love to hear that. People always look forward to this. I think most people tell me this superhero backstory idea, right? Like we all come from a backstory. And for those of us that are not 25, our backstory tends to be long and varied and like surprising to most people, right? So I'd love to hear what those backstories look like for you guys.
Oh man, you gonna go? All right, I'm gonna go. So, how far do you want me to go back? Oh, I'm the oldest of 8 kids. I was a Navy brat, traveled the world. After I retired from my dad's family, I served 20 years faithfully under my dad. Yes, sir. And I went off and I was a disc jockey for about 9 years in San Francisco. Short story, I moved to Idaho, went to college and studied Spanish. And then me and Dave started a software magazine, a computer magazine. And then I met Rod and we started working at the same software company back in the day. I was running a sales team. Rod was my sales engineer. And after running that company for a number of years, we decided to create Zenware, which creates RoadFS and also another product called Harvest Point. So yeah, we've started in 2009. So literally September this year will be our 15th anniversary. In my free time, anything with water, I'm all in.
Nice.
Enter it, on it, in it,
around
yes.
it. He used to be frozen. He used to be on frozen water, but not anymore because
I like to be cold. I'm old.
That's awesome. And and so like that international aspect when you were growing up, you have some international ties now, like within your house. Right?
Yeah, we adopted 2 kids from Haiti. So Judy and I had 4 kids, and then we adopted 2 from Haiti. So yeah, we're kind of international blended family. It's funny because when we got our first family portrait, so my wife's Filipino, my kids are very proud to be half Filipino, and then we have the 2 kids from Haiti. And we hung up the family portrait and we stepped back and my daughter Kaylani goes, "Wow, Dad, you look adopted."
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, so
that's
I like it. You're like the whitest guy in the family. That's good.
In the family, so which is fine. So
that's awesome. What about you, Rod?
So when I was born in 1922, I am the opposite of Jody. I'm born into a family where I'm the second oldest. I'm the only male. My father was a truck driver. Started out really, really poor family. Grandfather military, that kind of background. Uncles were military. I've been married for 34 years. I have 3 children, all girls. 2 of them are autistic. And I started out life as a mechanic. So I was in the automotive industry actually in the 80s. That's no joke. That's how long ago it was. But I was an ASE certified mechanic. And then I started restoring cars and painting cars and everything to do with cars. And then literally my wife came home one day and said, she worked for the Department of Education. And she found out that one of the side benefits is herself or her blood relatives could go to college. And so I got sent to college for $3 a credit.
Wow.
So she came home and said, "You're going to school." And I went to school and I kind of migrated into software. I got out of college and I worked for a semiconductor manufacturer, which was, Jody put in 20 years under his dad, and I put in a 7-year sentence at a semiconductor manufacturer. And then I just never got out of automotive. I've always done my own cars. I've got a big car collection. And I went into web development, and I just had to get back into cars. So when I started working at the software company where Jody was at, they had a product that was similar to RoadFS, and I kind of took that over. And then when we started Zenware, we said we need to create a product for this industry and really dive into it. And I had met Rennie Doyle years before that. My youngest child and Rennie's youngest child are the same age, and they went to school together.
Oh, cool.
So we had met each other early on, and so that kind of pushed us into the detailing industry. But quite frankly, Jody and I, neither of us had actually been detailing. I had cut and polished cars freshly painted and thought I was detailing, but mostly what I was doing is just destroying newly painted cars and making shiny scratches.
We know that because you use the phrase cut and polish.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So I've always been involved in it. I'm in my free time, I am either up in the mountains, I'm playing with one of my kids, or I'm working on one of my cars and just building stuff. So that's me.
That's awesome. What's interesting about the industry is how people, and I love these backstories because you always find these like connectivity points that people wouldn't really know otherwise, right? Like you're a car guy, I'm a car guy. My first business, which I still technically have, was web and app development back in the late 90s. So I was a software nerd and web nerd way back then.
Yeah.
But
So
then
what's your hero story?
my superhero story, I've actually never told the story on this podcast, and I'll abbreviate it a little bit. I have two degrees, one in business and one in exercise physiology. I started out life after college as a personal trainer, and I was evidently really good at being a personal trainer because I sold a crap ton of personal training, and I did like 13 clients a day, which is a lot of clients, by the way. That's a lot of, I call peopling. But I was good enough that they gave me my first 2 clubs. And so we lived in Phoenix and Scottsdale for 3 years. And so I got my first clubs, huge 50,000 square foot clubs. I was 23 years old at the time. So that was a crazy kind of experience to have that job, which with that responsibility at that young age, but ended up going to work for a software company after that. The fitness industry is terrible for families and marriages because your hours are 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., and 5 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Yep.
So, so I had an opportunity, and this was in the .com days, right? Like the .com boom. I went to work for a software company that worked in fitness, networked fitness equipment. So I ended up, kind of rising through the ranks and taking all that VC money and all that stuff that was flowing like milk and honey back in that time. And, long story short, we wanted to move out to be closer to family. We lived from the most expensive county in the United States, which is Fairfield County, Connecticut, where my kids were born. And when we knew we were going to start our own business, we were like, we can't afford to live here. This is crazy. So we moved to Pocatello, Idaho. We lived in Pocatello, Idaho.
That's where I grew up.
Did you really? We lived in Chubbuck. Yeah.
Wow.
So we lived in Chubbuck. And then because we wanted to be close to family, but not close to family. And as it turns out, now we're 45 minutes from family. We moved up here near Bozeman right after that. And then I've got 9 brands now. I've just continued I'm a serial entrepreneur guy. I love the creation aspect of business. So I love to create. My hobbies are creating business and playing with cars and playing with Jeeps. And so that's kind of the long and short of it. Now I sell things on the internet. When people ask my wife what I do, I told her just to tell them I'm a drug dealer, because it's a much easier point of reference than trying to explain what it is that I actually do. So so that's the long and short of it. I mean, I could take an hour and tell that story just like you guys could, but
so that's you understand what actual wind is, because if you lived in that valley where Pocatello is, then snow only snowed on one side of your house.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was crazy down there. And then my in-laws living Livingston, Montana, which is outside of Paradise Valley, and their huge gas grill only stayed on the deck because it was attached via the propane hose, which is a terrible idea, by the way. But that wind, like I can do any kind of weather except for wind because there's literally no escaping it. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah. Cool.
Tell me about RoadFS. There are a few quote unquote CRMs right out there on the market. I'm interested because I honestly don't know much about the software itself. And then what made you, so did you target, I know Zenware started, you have that other product. Is it something you said, hey, we need a detailing, this is something that's missing in the industry, we need to put it out there? That's kind of how Detailer's Helper came about, which is like, this is something that doesn't exist. Okay, I'll go create it. So I'm interested in that part of the story.
So when we worked at the other software company, they had started a product that was similar, and it was in the general automotive space. But there's too many nuances between somebody that does, for instance, brick and mortar repair shop and detailing. And so when we started 15 years ago, there literally was nothing. Mm-hmm. We would go to, we went to our very first mobile tech expo, and people are like, what is software? Why would a detailer need software? And
so it's like, why would detailers ever want to wear a tool belt? So it's hard to sell products that people don't know they need.
Yeah, exactly. Create a need as well. So when we first started it, we just kind of focused on the paper aspect, right? Get rid of those piles of paper. And then as the industry evolved and you could get into more and more stuff, for a while we dabbled in PDR. And I traveled with Dent Wizard for a couple of weeks and did that kind of thing. And it was that's a crazy industry. I mean, the life expectancy of a hail chaser is really low, and it was just insane. But yeah, when we first started, it was just, I think it was partly just because of me, because I just always want to be involved in cars somehow.
Well, and we also, with the other software company, we saw a huge market, right?
Yeah.
But they were trying to come at it from the old traditional software sales where it's X thousands of dollars per year and you have this software support and assurance, and it was a huge number, right? And we're like, look, and this was right when SaaS cloud-based software was in its infancy, and we were like, look, we need to change the licensing model. So we knew that the licensing model would fit into the automotive recon space, but what we learned really quick was that the maturity of the business owner as far as it came to systems and operations was very immature. And we were so far ahead of the game that for the first 5, 7, 8 years, we were really doing a lot of business coaching with our customers, right? It's like, look, we can really help you. This is where it applies. This is what we can adopt. And so, we really were pioneers when it comes to bringing software into here. Yeah. And it's, and it opened the door for other opportunities because, it's interesting because people would go, oh, well, this software is coming on board. This software is coming on board. How's that going to affect you? Well, it actually helped us because it expanded the conversation, because people will go, well, I went and talked to them and this is their perspective, what's yours, right? And it really created this really good fertile ground for us to have conversations because, one, the market had matured. 2, people are asking better questions. 3, I think the industry had evolved into really having entrepreneurs and business owners instead of just detailers, right? And that helped, right?
And so when he says we're pioneers, he's not joking. He's talking, this is pre-iPhone. There was no iPhone. We were talking about, so the software we first developed was for like Blackberries and hard barcode scanning devices. And I mean, we're talking early on.
Stone tablets came with its own chisel.
Put it out on a stone tablet and Morse code to get into a server. But yeah, it's such an evolution in it. And again, like you mentioned, there was a company that came on board, one of the other CRMs that's still in business. And they, somebody asked us like, oh man, how did that affect you? We literally grew by 20% the first year they were in business, because now there's more of a, if you're the first car on the block and nobody's ever heard of a car, when there's 10 or 12, now you've got an advantage of being the first and having all those things already built. So
it's funny because I had Matt Kelly on the podcast of his episode launched last week. Matt was basically responsible for bringing Ceramic Pro to where it was, he and his team. And I used to talk about that when I was with G-Technic. I was like, dude, if it weren't for CP, consumers wouldn't know what the hell ceramic coating is, or we'd still need 5 to 7 years to get that. And so when people are afraid of competition, I'm just like, first of all, if there is competition and something exists, it helps. It's easier to come in as a second person, but it also helps because you have dual efforts to educate a consumer that they need a product. Then they can decide which product they're going to choose based on all those different factors.
Yeah, whichever one works for them. And that's what's funny is so many of the forums, I've seen that question, I don't know, 5 billion times of what's the best CRM or what's the best invoicing software. And I'll go out there and answer I'll just say, look at all of them and choose the one that's best for you. Because you're going to get everybody's fanboy. You're going to get ours and you're going to get theirs and you're going to get the other guys and you're going to get somebody that just says paper. Just go do the thing that works best for your company is the best one you're going to be at.
Yeah, I used to use that phrase with, detailers love to chase products, right? Like, they'll chase different polishes and cleaners and all that. And I love Bob McKee from Auto Geek, right? Because we would get on, and I have known Bob for a long time, and literally he had like 9 brands that all came out of the same 1,500 gallon bucket, right? And you would go on these forums and they are arguing about which one was better because but it was the same product. But the idea is like, I use McGuire's 100 and 201 on hundreds of vehicles and I made thousands of dollars and I kept with that pretty much the whole time I was detailing full time because it worked for me on 98% of the stuff that I wanted to work on.
Yeah.
And to your credit, you guys will have a different customers want different things.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that as the industry progresses, you're going to use different things. I mean, when ceramics first started just going absolutely ballistic, and it was like 2017, 18, 19 era when, you'd go to SEMA and there'd be like 42 new companies out there.
All with the same juice in the same bottle.
And roll the palms over laughing, going, "We bottle half of those." It's the kind of deal. But I think that to the people's credit is they're going for that newest thing. And so when somebody comes out with a new SiO2 product that has this new property, and now you can wait 8 minutes before you wipe it off instead of 35 seconds. People are going to migrate towards that. It doesn't mean that the one that you used a year ago sucks because it was great then. It's just, and to one company's credit, I was actually at PDP in Ohio. Jody and I were, and we were watching a product that PDP was demoing. And we were back with another product company and the owner was watching PDP and he goes, yeah, that's something we need to work on our coating. We need to work on the dwell time. Ours is too fast. But just to recognize that they needed to improve something. And that's where the competition really helps. If we didn't have competition, we'd still all be using that wool pad that has the string that you tied on the 12 inch,
I still got a couple of those.
Yeah. I mean, somebody invented, hook and loop, and all of a sudden it changed the industry. And so I think that's the best part about it is because I think everybody sees the competition and goes, oh man, they just built that thing. We got to do that. And I don't care if it's a paint company, a coating company, a polish company, it doesn't matter. You see that and you go, we have to do that. And that just keeps moving the industry forward.
Yeah. And I think that, that the ideology of the guy that you were talking to is exactly what separates those that are successful from those that come and go, right? Because it's like, it's not like, oh, I'm going to do everything I can to destroy that guy or that company or whatever.
Right.
Clearly they're doing that quite well. How can we integrate that into our product, which already does maybe some other functionality better than the one they were demoing?
Yeah, for sure. So your product though, Detailer's Helper stuff, there's not a lot of people that have that. I don't see a lot of
there really isn't anyone. Rupus had one, and they'll readily admit it. Rupus had one, and so it was basically a Makita tool belt that was sold for hardware use, has steel rivets on it, all this stuff. So the story goes for Detailer's Helper and I hope Chris will forgive me for talking about Detailer's Helper too much, but I was doing a 69 GTO. It was all black, straight black. It did not have a ton of clear on it. But I had just done the rear quarter panel. Well, not really a quarter panel on that car because it's unibody, but on the rear, and I had then gone and moved, and I put my feet under the door, and I was ready to polish. All my crap was still behind the back bumper. I'm like, this is stupid. I come from the DIY world. I mean, if you've watched me on social media, we build houses and sheds and huge ass garages and stuff like that. So I thought, surely there has to be something like this on the market to carry my stuff around, because this job is just like any other job that carries a bunch of stuff. There really wasn't. They had this one, which I'm like, if I'm doing this guy's GTO that's worth $180,000 at that time, there's no way I've got metal rivets next to it. And so I took all the products that I used, again, M100. I see Adam's logo on your chair back there. I was a distributor for Adams at that time. I love Adam. And I took all these and I measured and sewed the first one on my wife's sewing machine. And so but I didn't want anything that could scratch, right? The bottles are now protected and all that. And then when we came out with the second version, the HD version, the patent is actually for the buckle cover. And so it covers the utility patent. But it was the same thing with me, is like, why would I ever put a tool belt on? I would never do that. I just stick my bottles in my pocket or lay them on the ground and so, it's crazy.
Yeah. And I think that is, that is something that there's so many things that people want to invent. I invented a product, and Jody thinks I should go build it, but I think everybody's already got it, and I still don't see it on the market. But people don't know for it. People don't know what they don't know. And then when you're in a situation, which the first time I actually had used your product, it was on Air Force One. And I mean, I've got bottles and rags and stuff hanging all over my clothes. And then, all of a sudden we all show up these belts. I'm like, this thing is friggin' awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
So I think that is part of the problem with any product that anybody gets their hands on. Until they get their hands on it, they don't know what they don't know. I mean, the first time that you actually put a really good ceramic coating, or you pick up a really good pad, or you use a really good polisher, you don't know. I mean, some of the new products that just came out last year, and I think last year at SEMA, how many three new polishers that I know of. We interviewed people, and we put our hands on all of them. We've used all three of them. I got my hands on the new Rupes polisher, the new battery powered device before it even hit the market. Rennie let us play with his, and then Lake Country put out the second version.
Udo.
So the thing is that until you've picked up something else, you have no idea. If the first time you ever touched a polisher, somebody handed you a specific machine, that's what it's going to feel like to you. That's what it's going to be like. And Jody, in fact, he struggled when he first started. He's right-handed. He put his right hand on the trigger, like all of us that are right-handed do. And he's like, man, I just don't feel like I have control over it. And one of the detailers that we know said, switch hands. He's like, what? And he's like, yeah, use your dominant hand to guide the front and just squeeze the trigger with your left. And that's how Jody finally polishes the opposite.
That's how I polish like that.
Yeah. So I think that is one of those things that people need to try stuff. They don't just need to follow, well, Jody uses this, so I'm going to use it. I mean, I think anybody that's used Meguiar's knows that in a pinch, you got to go grab some, rocks and gravel from Meguiar's and put it on a car, because it works. That's the thing, is whatever works for you works for you. I'm a big proponent. I've never been to anybody's detail shop, not one person, that only has one product. Nobody.
Right. Yeah. Which actually begs the question that I used to talk about. I did a YouTube. I had my YouTube channel. I kind of let other people take over that segment, but I had a video that I said, stop co-branding your business. Hey, you know that little thing on your phone when you search and you say business near me? Well, people aren't finding you when they search for ceramic coating near me, detailing near me, tint shop near me, PPF shop near me. They're not finding you as well as they should, or they're not finding you in the areas that you'd like to. Detailer's Roadmap has a solution. I want to introduce our new Google Business and Maps Accelerator. We have got this great new program that not only gives you an opportunity to do some search engine optimization, SEO, but in a very specific way that is designed to be map friendly, Google business friendly, and in order to get you more leads in areas that you're currently in and areas that you also want to target that may be slightly out of your own area. So go to detailersroadmap.com, use that little schedule a demo button at the top, and tell them in that form that you want to do the Google Business and Maps Accelerator program. Take a look at that. It's very cost effective and a very entry level price, and it's awesome because you would have like, all right, well, I'm a CP shop. I'm a G-Technic shop. No, I'm a McGuire shop. And then like they rebrand over like 10 years, they've had like 7 brands. I'm like, dude, just carry them all, have your own brand, and move through it. Now, when you're talking about software, how does that work? Like, how do you get hands-on software and all that, right?
Well,
there's only one.
You can actually use 2, and we've got a couple of co-customers with some of the other brands.
Yeah, but traditionally it's RoadFS and QuickBooks or RoadFS and Intact, right? So basically, RoadFS is an extension of your accounting software, right? And so you can't really use somebody else in conjunction with that, right? Because you're managing all of your business in one location, right? So, and that's why we always tell everybody, because a lot of people come to us and they're like, well, what differentiates us between you and them? Well, honestly, we don't know because we don't look at their stuff, right? So go ask the questions that are relevant for your business. What do you need? Do you need online scheduling? Do you need automatic invoicing? Do you need commissions? Do you need, whatever, inventory, whatever? Your business is, the general process of your business is pretty much consistent. But there are nuances that a software can really help you explode and better manage your business. And so that's where those interviews are important, right?
Yeah.
How can you really help my business?
Part of it is like, for instance, I'll pick on one of the non-automotive industry softwares. A lot of people will use House Call Pro. The name itself tells you what it's made for. It is not made for automotive. The big difference there is you cannot retain and track the vehicle information, which if you don't want to, that's fine. That's totally fine. But most, I would say 99+% of the people in this industry, you need to retain the vehicle's information so that the next time it comes in, paint thickness and what products you used and what the issues were. Was the right quarter repainted? Is the hood a different color? Does it have thickness here, thickness there? Or was there? So if you're not retaining that information, I don't know why you're just doing an invoicing software, and that's fine. None of the CRMs are a replacement for accounting software. None of them. So you're not going to want to, go to the accountant at the end of the year and go, here's my RoadFS. You need to have a QuickBooks or something for all of that legal stuff, taxes, quarterly returns, all of that. And I think that's why Jody and I ended up over the years have done so much business coaching, because people will come to us and be like, how do I do this? And we'll be like, okay, hold on. That's not the function of your CRM. And then there's always been those situations where our CRM has extended to way beyond what we ever thought it would be. I mean, we've taken reports from RoadFS and turned them into a bank, and somebody bought a building because of it. And I was blown away. They're like, well, if we ran the report this way and did this, and I'm like, sure. And then we did it and printed it out and gave it to the bank, and there's our logo on the top of it, and the bank gave this guy a loan. And I'm like, that's incredible. But I think what it is like Jody said, for any software, figure out what it is you're trying to solve. What issue are you trying to solve? Is it because you're trying to do customer management? Is it because you're trying to do inventory? Is it because you're trying to retain this or automatic or whatever? Because I can tell you that most of our customers that we have are not first-time CRM users. They're on their second or third one. We've had clients that have started with us and gone somewhere else and come back. We've had somebody that started over there and came over here. We've had somebody that started with us and went to other places. So people move around a lot, and that's okay because they're searching for something that helps their business, right? I'm not wearing the same pair of shoes that I wore 20 years ago. So you move around, but it's got to solve the issues you need. And that's the biggest concern is if the software is not solving your issues, you're not asking the right questions of the people that are doing it.
I'm curious how that sales process works, because obviously in my world with online marketing and coaching and that kind of thing, it's a lot like we call it discovery call, right? Like let's discover what your issues are, what you need. Is that kind of, because you guys clearly spend a fair amount of time and money on brand, it's customer support, but it's also, there's a brand awareness factor to it, right? There's an altruistic, component to what you guys do. But at the end of the day, you can't just give money away if you're not, you're not just going to spend all this unless there's a business component to it. I think everybody understands that. But how do you guys handle that?
Yeah. Like you said, we do a lot of forward facing stuff, right? And there's a lot of altruistic motives in our intention. Rod and I are really driven to impact somebody's life and their business, right? But to answer the question directly, we do a lot up front, right? Because here's the deal. If you buy QuickBooks, install it and good luck.
Dude, even before you install it, good luck. Here's my credit card. Now you're on your own.
So we tell everybody, look, right? Because there are so many nuances to the way your automotive business runs. We want you to heavily rely on our team the first 7, 14, 21, 30 days, right? Because as we understand your business, we can configure RoadFS to better work for your business. So we spend a lot of time up front. And then once we get things dialed in, dude, we are hardly ever hear from our customers because it's set up to help run their business.
Yeah. The perfect example to answer your question for me is that this trip to Arizona I took was a brand new client, and they wanted me to go down there to train their guys. And they signed up and they said, I have 5 users. So fairly small opportunity for us. But I flew down there. I got a rental car, got a hotel, drive to the facility. I walk in the door. They don't have 5 guys. They had 5 people they wanted me to train. They have 96 technicians.
Wow.
So it's a massive thing. Now, if this would have been the QuickBooks model, let me have your credit card, have a nice day. It was not set up for, 96 technicians and 5 managers. So I spent 3 days down there reconfiguring the system with our settings. You can turn things on and off, and showing them how to use it in that kind of way. And I was like, okay, hold on. We need to set up regions, and each region needs to have employees assigned to it. And we really need to get this dialed in. And at this point, it's Tuesday. This was Friday when I left. They've got, I think like 85 or 90 work orders already created. I've been on the phone with the main guy twice. They're going. And there is no way that they would have been happy and doing that if I had not been down there. So as much as travel sometimes isn't fun, it's detrimental to be in front of your client and to be hands-on, because
not detrimental.
It could be detrimental
if detrimental to not be in front.
So the thing is Jody and I come from a background of custom software. The other company we were with was developing custom software, and that is absolutely, I want to say experiential, but so you kind of have to infuse yourself into a day in the life. And so we've done software for Microsoft, Pepsi Mid-America, the Department of Interior, and you have to kind of immerse yourself and say, okay, I'm a new person at your company. Give me a day in the life. Let's walk through that process. It'd be the same if you went and you were doing setting up a new shop for somebody, right? And you wanted to see, let's get the most efficient so that I don't have to go to the back of that GTO. We're going to make sure you have everything with you in the least amount of walking possible. that's where we're at. We're like, walk us through that. And in our opinion, that's the only way to do it. You can't just get some and turn them loose on software because they won't know how to do it. 90% of the people in this industry are nervous about software. They're really intelligent people. They use machines that can damage, $100,000 cars every day, but some of them are very nervous to touch a keyboard. And so you have to get through that and understand what they need. And
does that bring, so you said it was a relatively small opportunity with 5. Clearly, does that mean it's a much larger opportunity from a revenue standpoint?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's user setup, but we also do a lot of different things. Some of our secret sauces, if you will, is we work with a lot of companies that are like that. We've worked with companies that have 1,000 technicians, and we work with companies that have 1. So the way that ours configures is it can expand and contract to the size of your company. And that means a lot more in revenue, but that doesn't mean, for us, that doesn't mean we're going to treat them any differently. I mean, I went down there for 5 users.
Yeah.
It just happened to turn out to be over 100. I still would have come back after 5 users and they'd be successful. So,
well, and the reason I asked is because I was trying to bring it back around to, you guys are very high touch.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a much more high touch model than most software companies, honestly, and I'm not even talking about our industry. First of all, if I wouldn't recommend doing custom software for anybody. We built, we back in the day, talking about like innovation, we actually had bookstores, one of which was at ISU in Pocatello. And we had 3 bookstores in Boise, Pocatello, and somewhere in Washington State. They wanted us, they sold books used, right? Which is what college bookstores do. We built a software program that they could utilize from the web that had inventory connections between all 3 stores real time. And, this was like 2001, 2002. So like the APIs, like we did all that customized. This is a complete side note, but I had Eastern European developers on my team. And the customer one day is like, if I could just get Alexi on the phone, I could really walk him through this. And I told him, look, I don't let my programmers talk to actual humans. That's not a good idea. Alexi works for Amazon now, by the way, and he lives in Washington State. But total side note on what custom software looks like and what you guys do seems like it would equate very well to what you would teach in the business management side of how to sell detail.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And I think, it's interesting because like you pointed out, we have a very high touch model, right? And that a lot of people might say that you're too high touch, right? But what we found in the way that we've been high touch is it has created real strong loyalty with those customers over time, right? Yeah. And so, and it's fun, right? Because we're coming in, we're having an immediate impact, but we're also part of that growth.
Mm-hmm.
And we look at our new customer out of Dan Cummins that came on board at the beginning of the summer. I mean, dude, we have had, we've been on site, we've been training their teams. We're actually going to be rolling out at another location, and it creates a stickiness to your customer versus going, hey, here's the software, go figure it out.
Yeah.
So your churn rates go way, way down.
Yeah, and with software, that's a big problem, right? I've talked to the other owners of the other companies, and that's always a big problem is the turnover rates. But we've got situations where I'm just blown away. We've got one guy that his handbook, his company handbook, has our name in it. It doesn't say use the CRM. It says when you open RoadFS, and it goes through the procedures for RoadFS. And he's been a customer of ours since 2012, 2013, and so. We become part of the family. I mean, I've got equipment stored in Florida at one guy's house so that when we go to MTE, we don't have to ship anything. We've got Jody has stayed in Jamie Buchanan's house with him. We flew down to Jamie Buchanan's shop in North Carolina and polished cars with him.
Mm.
It had nothing to do with software. We're just there finishing cars because it was after hours and everybody went home. So it's helped us a lot because Jody and I that's just how we are personality wise. We're very relationship driven. If I meet somebody and if I hadn't met you before and I met you and we were at an event and you're like, oh man, we got these 2 cars we got to finish. I'm the first one to grab a polisher and come help you. And Jody's right behind me. Like, what do we need to do? So I think that's our personality, and that's how we kind of want to do business. And not everybody's like that, and that's fine, but we are just that kind of person.
And I mean, I love that because what it does is it shows you, it's supposed to be fun, right? Running a business is supposed to be fun, especially like I said before, we're not 25. So like, if it's not fun now, you got to do something different because it's that can be a long haul, but it fits with what you guys do. In some of my life, I talk a lot about servant leadership. Yeah. Right. And I feel like that phrase came to mind as we're talking about the way that you guys actually run your company, which is very servant leadership based. Right. Why are you laughing?
Oh, there's a contrast that's absolutely hilarious. And it talks about so your employees are very diverse. Jody is one way. I'm another way. We had an employee that's mother died, and this wasn't the funny part, but Jody volunteered to fly down to Washington with our employee and drive back a car because our employee was really shaken up, and he just did that on his own. Me, on the other hand, we had an employee that had a really bad marriage, and his wife sold his car, so still went to Arizona and we point, and Kane brought it back. It was a '67 Cougar. You can't let that go. So anyway. We're serving in different ways, but
I'm probably both. I'm a mixture of both. I would do each of the. How do we combine those trips? That's what I want to know. We got to pick up the one guy's car, steal the other one's car back.
So it's just, I think that's the difference is like our team members rely on us for a lot of things. They rely on us to run a business that keeps them in with money. They rely on us for other things like picking up their stolen car, their mother's car. And like, I got a text from one of our employees the other day. It was like, hey, there's a seat broken on my Jeep. Can you weld it for me? I'm like, yeah, sure. Come on up. I'll weld it for you. And so came up and welded it in my shop. But they value us enough that our average employee time with Zenware is over 10 years. We have people that have been with us 12 years. We have people that have been with us 13 years. We've seen them, get married,
kids, buy houses, buy their first car.
Yeah. I mean, it's just all that kind of stuff. We've taught people I taught a guy how to drive.
Wow.
So I think that's just how we are. I mean, if somebody walked in 10 minutes after this podcast and said, hey, I got a problem. I heard my tire's flat. We'd go out and fix their tire. My mentality is always, this is a job. This is what I do for a living, but this isn't who I am. Who I am is different. At the end of my life, when I'm sitting in a chair talking to Jody, we're going to talk about trips we've been on, experiences with our kids, things we were able to see, places we were able to go. It's not going to be, Rod was a software guy. No, that's not it. My wife has this theory. She's like, tomorrow we could all be digging ditches and your employees could be your boss. So it's kind of that don't kick the ass that you may have to kiss tomorrow settle. I mean, that's just how it is.
Yeah, that's such a great way to look at your life. I don't, I want to look back and have this idea of like, I stopped asking the question. So when I go and I meet new people, the typical guy thing is, hey, what do you do? Right. And I stopped asking it that way. A lot of times I'll ask, hey, what do you do for a living? What do you do to make money? And, because what so many guys, especially, they equate what we do with who we are. Right. And I don't want to define myself, like I'm an entrepreneur, which is fine. That's great. But the entrepreneur part allows me to be everything else that I am in my life. And it sounds like it's the same for you. And knowing both of you, I know that that's true. How do we equate this and bring this back to your average? You guys are doing business coaching. I do business coaching as well. How do we bring this back and teach these detailers? And let me put this way. How do we teach detailers how to be business owners that own detail shops? right? And integrate and to infuse this ideology into these people?
I'm going to answer it this way, and it goes back to when we first started our business. So we break all the rules to business. There's 4 partners. I'm the friend of one. He and his wife were mine and Judy's very first friends as a married couple. That guy is Rod's brother-in-law. The other guy is Rod's brother-in-law. Right? So
wait, if I'm doing the math right, are you guys from Kentucky? This is
like that. So and literally with the first day we were going to start our company, we went to an SBA guy that was a retired CFO, and he listened to us and he goes, "Oh God, 2 of you guys need to leave right now. You're never going to make it." He's like, "You guys will fight to the death." And the difference is we all know that we're going to be eating at one of the other person's table on a holiday or somebody's birthday or something.
And I share that because when we first started out, the mindset about each one of our roles in our mind was different than what evolved. Because it became very apparent that we had 2 people in the wrong roles. And that led to a very challenging conversation, a very uncomfortable conversation that said, look, we need to swap these roles. I know in your mind you wanted to be this, but your gift is over here. And if we're going to have a successful company, you need to be there. A lot of detailers don't understand what their true role is. So they get so caught up in, I got to polish that car. Instead of going, what is my true gift? Am I a people person? Can I sell? Can I interact with people? Or am I the guy that needs to not be in front of the customers? And I go back and I polish the cars. When you can define the roles for your business and you can stay in your lane and leverage the gifts that you've been given, all of a sudden you open the pathway to success. But so many men and so many women, they get so caught up in, well, I should be this and I should be that and I have to do that and I need to do this, that they get overwhelmed and all of a sudden they're fighting against themselves.
Yeah, I've said a couple of times on the podcast, I've and some people take offense at it, but I still contend that not all small business owners are entrepreneurs and not all entrepreneurs are small business owners, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you don't have to use that moniker in order to be successful. You can be a small business that makes $100,000 a year if that work, if that fits your lifestyle and it builds the life that you want. Who cares what you call it? And to your point, if you suck at being in front of the customers, but you're really good at polishing, then it's still your company, but hire somebody else to go talk to customers while you go polish cars. And it's totally fine.
That is the biggest challenge I see with business owners. And I don't care what business it is. When we do custom software, it's the same way. Most business owners that want to grow can't get out of their own way. So no, it has to be my way. My customers are used to the way I do it. And you'll hear, I can't find a good employee. No, it's not that you can't find a good employee. It's that they're not going to be a carbon copy of you. You can create a McDonald's-like menu and say, this is what you get, good, better, best, and train your employees for what good, better, best is. But they are certainly not going to be you, right? And so you have to get out of your own way. And that's been one of the things that's been really successful for Jody and I in our partnership is we take care of the business side of things and our other 2 partners are technical. And Jody is foot to the floor, gas on all the way, go, 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 go. And I am slow and calculated. And so when we do that, that's a good combination because Jody will go.
You guys drive those driver's ed cars, right? With 2 sets of pedals and it's trying to fight over who gets which one.
We switch positions sometimes. If I'm literally behind the wheel,
yes,
there's smoke coming out of the tires. The thing about it is that we end up doing that. And we play off of each other. Like Jody will go, hey, I know that you might not want to do this yet, but what do we think about this? And I'll be like, hey, I'm not ready to do this, but what do you think? And sometimes it goes against what you think, but you have to trust your business partners. You have to trust your mentors. You have to trust people in your life that are going to help you get there. One of the smartest things we ever did, Jody was pressuring constantly to get somebody in here, to get another guy in here. And we brought in a contractor, which we do bring in contractors because sometimes I don't want to hire somebody full time because I don't know if that revenue is going to stay there. And so we brought this contractor in on a temporary basis, and he's been with us
2 years.
2 years. And
as a contractor.
As a contractor, and he's on a custom software thing that we have a monthly agreement with, and he's fantastic. He never causes a problem. It's just been perfect. I was originally hesitant to do that, but Jody's constant wanting to nagging. Finally got.
I'm at that point again. We need to know what.
So I think you got to play off of that. And the other thing I tell people that I think is really important is you cannot have an ego. If you have an ego,
I was literally ego just floated right through the middle of my brain before you said that.
Yeah, because I mean, it's really easy to have an ego. I mean, anybody out there that's had a business for any length of time and made significant amount of money, it's really easy to get an ego and put that dollar sign behind you and just like, look at me, look at how much money I've made. And
you should be making this.
But yeah, you should all be making this amount of money. I've heard that so many times from some people, and I'm like, that's an ego thing. That is not reality. So, yeah, we just try to keep that ego down, and just at the end of the day, when people say, "What's Jody like?" I'll say, Jody is exactly how you see him. He's a great dad. He loves to play on the water. If you want to go have fun, Jody's the guy to get hooked up with because he does that. And they're like, no. I mean, like, what's he like at work? And I'm like, Jody's a really
is that guy?
It's the same way.
There's no difference there. That's just how he is. So.
Which is good. I mean, that's how I am. I'm, there are situations like here, I tend to be what I call on a little bit more, which you guys experience the same thing.
Sure, yeah.
But really, like, it's just us, right? Like, if you don't like me here, you're not going to like me in person. And if you like me here, you'll probably like me in person. Most people do in that way. But it's like, it's funny because that word ego just floated right through my brain. Because I think, honestly, with this industry, and it was a new experience for me. I started Detailer's Helper in 2013. And we sold the first one to a guy named Todd Randach, who passed away in like 2016. So I still have, I'll be searching through my photos and stuff sometimes, and I'll find a picture that he sent me with the very first one. And it's heartwarming. It was kind of a tragic circumstance, but all that to say, it was such a surprise to me, this industry. And I think a lot of people experience that. It's like, no, wait, this is different. You're not going to really understand until you're in it. This is unlike any other industry. And I think a lot of it comes to do with ego, and ego on both sides of the continuum. Most of my experience in life have been that people make decisions and their actions are based on low self-esteem, not high self-esteem. And I think you see that on both sides in the industry, but it's this whole, I'm the best in my town, or I'm the best at this. And, chances are you're really not. You may be really good, and you may be successful. That doesn't make you the best. Because if you drive things from that ego, man, you're in trouble, because there's always somebody better. 100%.
Yeah. I learned that early on. My father, super old school. He's 81 years old. He was a truck driver, and he's gruff and just super tough little guy. And I mean, he just, and I used to run competitively. And one time he told me, he says, there's always going to be somebody better. And, you just, enjoy yourself. But and I thought, God, what an ass. He's telling me there's somebody going to be better. And when I finally realized what he meant just keep yourself grounded, because, you may be the best today. You may go out there and finish first, but somebody's going to come up behind you, and they're going to be better. Always, 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 especially in athletics, that you set a record, somebody else is going to break it. Mm-hmm. So he was trying to keep me grounded and get me out of my ego. And it took me a long time to figure that out. And I think that's the same as what you're saying. I've polished, I don't even know how many cars from how many eras starting in 1980 to today, right? I'm not the best, and nor would I even consider being the best. There's people have talked about doing a polishing competition, and I'm like, nah, no desire whatsoever. Not because I can't polish, but because who cares? It is something that we do. And yeah, it's really fulfilling. I think that's why we have so many people in this industry. It is instant gratification. Scratchy surface, now it's not. It looked like crap, now it doesn't. It's so instant. But I think people get inside of their own head the first time they pick up they get a Ferrari or they get, a big airplane, something that's over $200,000. They start getting this big head, and it's just another car. I mean, I had a really, really unbelievably personal, excellent opportunity at the Peterson Museum to polish Steve McQueen's personal Jaguar. And for me, it was really fulfilling. I was born in 1967. The whole Steve McQueen era. And I went up and I just polished this car. I grabbed a polisher and I just started going. And people were like, oh, how could you do that? And I'm like, it's just
paint.
Just because there's a number of zeros behind it that make most people stagger, it's just paint. And at the end of the day, it was fun to work on. There were parts that were a pain in the butt, and it was an excellent experience. But I'm not going to, sit there and be like, oh, I've polished Steve McQueen's car. If I wasn't there, somebody else would have done it. It's not like, there was this divine intervention and so it is what it is. You have an opportunity to own cars. You have an opportunity to work on things and airplanes and boats. The boat we were working on is a $400,000 boat, and it was a mess, but it was fun. It was cool to do. Boat detailers are a different breed of animal.
Yeah. I'm getting a podcast together with 5 female boat detailers.
Oh yeah.
So it was going to be awesome. But yeah, boat detailers they're a whole different breed for sure.
They're built different. They have webbed feet. I don't know if they have webbed feet.
Well, and I think that highlights, it goes back to a question about detailers being business owners. I think one of the key differentiators between a business owner is somebody who can identify a niche that they serve.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you can dial in a niche and own it, dude, I look at Rasheed Baker. That guy owns everything, all boats, right? He in Jacksonville, Florida, he's the go-to guy, right? And if you can figure out where you play, you know how to serve your customers, you know how to market, you don't have to second guess yourself, you have a vision and a purpose, and all of that comes together to help you be successful.
Riches are in the niches.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and buddy. Look at Detail's roadmap. I mean, you guys are printing money, right? But more importantly, you're giving a service to a niche and they love you because you do it like nobody else does.
Yep. Yeah, and in a way that is very high touch. It's the support team, and I've been a part of a ton of companies. These guys, like the employees in the support team in this company, are just freaking awesome. Like they're just that good, and they run the business the way that you guys run your business. And Chris has his saying, which is, if we can't do it right, don't do it at all.
Right.
Which is amazing. And yeah, we've built a great reputation in the industry and web development. And it's funny how everything kind of comes full circle that I'm working for a web development company as a consultant in the detailing industry.
You're interviewing the guy that grew up in Pocatello, which is crazy, but yeah, that's
it is funny. And what you were saying, Rod, is I've said on this podcast and many times in person, we're not curing cancer, right? Like we're just shining paint. Like we just stop acting like that. You just save somebody's life because their black GM paint, which is terrible to work on, looks better than it did when they dropped it off. Like you're earning a living, you're developing relationships, you're employing your employees. Like that's good enough. You don't have to tell people how awesome you are all the time.
Right. And I think that statement right there, you got to know your why. You have to know why you're doing this. And there's some really, really smart individuals that figured it out early. They're like, I want to make a name for myself. and I want to go into this, and I want to go into this. And they've diversified themselves, and they've made themselves very successful for them. It's not successful for somebody else. It's not, like you said, somebody that lives in Scottsdale, Arizona, their version of success is not the same as somebody that lives in Income, Idaho, right? Same thing with, there's a friend of ours that's in Alaska, and he was killing himself to try to meet that goal of personally making 6 figures after taxes. And at the end of it, we're like, dude, where do you live? Look at the average income in the town that you live in. You're not gonna, for you, success looks different than anybody else. For Jody and I, success is different, right? Jody's success is, man, if I can tell you right now, if Jody won the lottery, the cool water ski boat that he would own within 13 seconds of winning would be awesome. He would
I would go buy a 45 foot owner's version catamaran.
There you go.
No go fast boat.
That's his version of success.
I want to sail the world.
Right. But mine's different, right? So Jody and I is going to be totally different. Yours is going to be totally different. And I think that is, everybody's on their own path. And sometimes our paths cross and we're all doing the same thing, but it looks different. I'm totally different. We had a client one time ask me, he goes, well, I'm buying you. I'm not buying your product. I'm buying you. And he said, so I need to understand, if Microsoft came to you tomorrow and offered you $40 million to your company, what would you do? And I said, you'd never hear from me again.
What? That's the dumbest question ever.
He goes, I'm trying to buy your product. I go, if Microsoft came to you and offered you $40 million for your company, what would you do? I'm going to be gone. I'm out. This is what I do to make money so that I can go do the things that I love to do. It's not that I don't love doing this. It's not that I don't care about the business. I mean, Jody will tell you, I'm here almost every single day. I work like hell.
Trying to get him to take a day off is like,
but
clawing honey out of a baby.
Because when I go home, I curl up with my dogs and my kids and my wife, and we just enjoy doing what we're doing. And I think that people need to understand that. So to make a long story even longer, you need to define what your success is and then go after that thing. But understand other people have got to be there to help you out. I mean, I would not be able to do this today if it wasn't for Jody, if it wasn't for our other partners, if it wasn't for our employees, if it was not for our customers, our mentors, our bank, our accountant, our lawyer. I mean, the list of people that help us do what we're doing, you're a community. It's not Rod and Jody. It's Rod and Jody and the 47 people behind us and next to us that make us what we are.
Yeah. And if you're a small business owner, if you're just like a single operator, you don't have partners and lots of employees and all that kind of stuff. There are coaches. Like I have my own business and life coach who has literally changed my entire life in like the last 4 months. But those people exist out there, and whether it's, you can find somebody for free, you pay somebody, but that really makes a big difference in how you can move yourself forward, because it gets you out of your own head. Right. And it's talking about financial success and like rewrapping your mind. And I've talked about this on the podcast. My whiteboard over here had all my revenue goals for the year. I'd written everything down, all my brands and all that. And I was just freaking obsessing about it. So one day on my coaching call with my mentor, he's like, I want you to take and erase that right now. And I did. I erased it all. And I wrote 3 things on my board, which is have fun, build a life, and serve others. Those are the 3 goals for 2024. Yep. But it changed my whole perspective, because if I focus on just the money part, it's crazy. I actually did a podcast earlier with a financial planner, and we were talking about and I've again said this multiple times, but if you chase money as the main objective, you'll never make enough.
Right.
Yeah. And I think the three of us in my mind define or are examples of what long-term life success really looks like. Yeah. Right. All 3 of us are happily married for a long time, just celebrated 29 years. You guys are both over 30, right? Over 30 years.
34.
Yeah. So like you have great families and great kids and employees and all that, but like take all the business away, take everything else away. And that's what to me defines a lifelong success.
Right. Right. That stuff's still going to be there. That's the point. And I don't think a lot of people look at that. It's like, if you strip all the business and everything away, I'm still going to be the same person. I'm still going to have the same likes. I'm still going to have the same desires and the same family. And that's what, Jody, sometimes people go, how you doing? And he's like, well, my wife still loves me. My kids still love me. And I'm still, got food on the table. So we're all good. And that, to me, once you come to that realization that those are the things that are important. And then like I said, I've been very, very, very blessed. I have a great car collection. I've had Harleys. Since day one, I've had my own bank account for toys. And I don't know how I work that out, guys. Don't ask me to figure that out, but I just did. And my wife is totally fine with it. In fact, she bought me a Harley for our 15th anniversary. But everybody in my family knows if the shit hits the fan, those are the first things that go. Those are liquid assets. I love them. They're my dreams, but they're gone tomorrow because the other things, the people in my life, are more important. That they're just things. They're material items, and I can be done with them tomorrow. So I think people need to get their perspective straight. And absolutely, what you're saying, tomorrow morning at 7:00, Jody and I are meeting with a new business coach for RoadFS, and we're doing a different path because we understand, even though we've been in business for 15 years and we've done this, we need an outside perspective, and we need somebody to look at our stuff, assess it, and take it into a different direction because we can't do it all.
Yeah. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. You guys, I mean, this is exactly the way I wanted this conversation to go, honestly, which is just like three guys sitting and having a great conversation, let people listen along, learn some things along the way. And this is what, to me, Cruise Control, this podcast is all about. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time. If people want to get on the high touch train that is RoadFS, how do we do that?
It is roadfs.com. The podcast is youtube.com/@roadfs or Spotify RoadFS, Apple Podcasts RoadFS, and RoadFS.
iHeartRadio, and this is
it's all RoadFS. So, and we're always willing to help. And dude, we just love what you do. I mean, your podcast is great. What Detailers Roadmap does for the industry, for our customers. We have a lot of our customers that uses Detailers Roadmap. And dude, it's just great to be able to walk side by side and with you. And we appreciate the invitation and glad that we can share it on both platforms. It's super awesome.
Yeah, I'm super excited that I got to know both of you guys a little bit better. And Jody and I, we've spent a little bit more time together, but it's been awesome getting to know you better, Rod. And you think if I got to know you better, I would know your name is Rod, not Rob. But this is, I think, what makes this job so fun. Like in this industry, fun is this connection and networking. And it's exactly what we were talking about in terms of how you define success. If what you're doing is not any fun, you either need to change how you're doing it or change what you're doing.
Yep.
There's really only two paths. Right. That's
right.
And this is a blast. This is the best part of my job. So
yeah, we're with you there. So
we appreciate the opportunity. So
yeah, well, I'm sure out of those 13 trips that I'm taking, I'm sure I'll see you guys at probably 2 or 3 of them. So
probably will.
Any left too. That's like, I don't know.
Anyway, at some point, I don't know when.
Yeah. Why? There's no reason to. Just keep going until you can't.
That's right.
Yeah. That's right. She's like, man, when are you going to slow down and rest? I go, I'll rest when I'm dead. Am I not so confident?
Yeah. I told that to we were talking about retirement with this financial advisor today. And I was like, I don't even know what that word means. I'm just going to keep working. Both my grandparents lived to be over 100, like 103, 104. I plan to live at 100 to 120. And I will, based on my lifestyle and my, the way I do stupid things, I'll either fall off something or something heavy will fall on me.
Yeah.
There we go.
It won't necessarily be the fall that'll stop me. It'll be a sudden stop. So.
Yeah. It's not the speed. It's the stopping. It's it's the sudden deceleration for sure. All right, gentlemen. Well, you guys have a great day.
Thank you, buddy. So and we will check you on the flip side.
Yes, sir. Head over to detailersroadmap.com and get your one-stop success solution today.